Hello, it's Bigsy doing another video. So I've talked about my concerns with Trump, North Korea. I'm trying to think about what the deeper agenda is, and I think also what may play into it is the Brexit. At the moment there's a lot of scaremongering around like the collapse of economies and stuff. If Britain leaves the European Union, and yes, I mean the first steps have been made, but no deadline's been set or anything's been pushed out there. So it's one of these things that until an actual definite change is put out there, nothing's going to really. You can get through, Yeah, don't want to just check in with some traffic, so always got to play it cool with the traffic. And that's the thing, is if you've got quite a good skill with driving, you can drive and talk, because there's no issues there. That's probably one of the things when you learn to drive. I mean, if you haven't driven or you plan to drive or whatever, that's one of the things to be kind of aware of. That if you can have a little social with, you can sort of talk with the instructor while driving, then that shows your confidence is building up. If you can't because of the way your brain is, then that's fair enough. Sometimes you might get stressed. Basically, it means when you relax, you learn better when you do things. So yeah, that's just the thoughts on that. Going back to possibly this World War III scenario. The main concern is that with the Brexit situation, is that basically what was spawned out of the EU was spawned out from World War II, or maybe one actually. Yeah, First World War divided the nations in Europe, and then the Second World War establishes a new order president and push communism, fight back with the Russians and weaken their strength, because they couldn't make them join the EU, so that's why they needed the excuse. So everything, when the conditions are right, things will arise. So there's two different methodologies that could be used. Is that you wait for the circumstances to happen, or you create the circumstances in which to happen. And both play out really. There's multiple plans for the New World Order, and they just sort of play them through as things arise. They've got things they've predicted ahead of time. They've got things they've planned ahead of time. If you've seen there's something about Simpsons and Donald Trump. So he was already predestined to have his position where he was now. Otherwise, the cards would be all wrong for if Hillary took over the throne. I don't know if there's another type of version of the the alternative timeline. What would happen with, say, Hillary if Hillary had got in? I mean, the plans would be similar, but is there stuff like on The Simpsons that would relate to that, or connect them to the Illuminati cards? It was definitely one where it's got her as Bill Clinton's handler. It plays out like a dog collar or something like that. So the big issue is that you need to have a war before Brexit takes root any further, because it reverses the plans laid out for the EU. So and then there's this thing about all this one world government stuff, and then you've got some other things looking towards this one world religion, so which will be fused with all the Abrahamic faiths in one pot, basically. That way no one of them's dominant over the other. So there's big plans laid out, and that was my thoughts today. It was stuff to do with Kim Yun-young. I think that's, do you know what, his name just eludes me sometimes. Anyway, we'll call him Kim. So there was some stuff about I picked up on social media that he's bolstering for some type of war and threatening the UK, and I don't see why, because we haven't threatened him really. We haven't been making these big boastful threats, and there's no proof to it. So I just wonder if this story was official, that has been pumped out, or just a way to make sure that we're allied when shit does hit the fan, because nothing's been set up. And I mentioned before is that a nation cannot, well, if it's slightly dysfunctional. Now, if I say anything about America or refer to it in some way sort of Americans, it's really more about the government I'm on about than anything else, or the impact of what the culture has done. However, I've got no issues with Americans. I've got Americans who are friends and stuff like that. So there's, I just want to be cool about that, just in case anyone's a bit sensitive and like, or maybe they're indoctrinated. They don't like to hear bad things about the country because they believe everybody appreciates them and is happy for war and stuff like that, and they have this sunny side of reality where they're sort of freed. But what actually happens is that they probably give up, destroy resistance, and no, I don't think anyone's. I mean, they like to be liberated and they want to see an end to war, and sometimes maybe foreigners are on your soil with boots on the ground. You're hoping what that means is that it's going to be over, but actually it might mean you just set the new battle line. So, and there's things obviously in any regime that's going to be. She crossed the line, okay. And so there's big issues there. And with the Brexit, it can undermine this whole process of this united government and taking the pressure off Russia. Sadly, Donald Trump's reversed a lot of what he's saying, and that's to do with the people pulling strings behind the scenes. And the thing is, I don't want to put my head on a block and get myself killed. I don't want other people to suffer, but just I think there's probably a better way of doing things nowadays. We've got to be sort of humanity's got to be growing up, basically. And this elitism around money. I mean, money is just a paper or it's digital currency. I can't see why it's so they're so caught up in it. Like they're so addicted to it. But then equally, like in most things, if you're exposed to enough of it, I think you can form an addiction of some kind. Just look at things like fear porn. I had to question my own self: am I becoming a bit addicted to fear porn? Have I watched too many programs on YouTube and it's kind of taken root? Because I would like to reply and it kind of excited in one way, but it shouldn't be. I don't think I could be horrified. Most things in the media, it's entertainment anyway, and that's the way to take it. Even what I'm saying, just sort of, it could be take a pinch of salt. However, I've got no agendas, and I don't need to lie, and no one's paying me to communicate. And also, it's nice to have a broader network of people or friends out there that you can connect with, or even just share ideas with other people. I mean, otherwise it can be quite hard when people have, they're sort of caught up in certain popularism of sorts, and they can only think in certain ways, and as a result, anything out of the box is a little bit too hard for them to swallow. So that's one of the things that was on my mind, and I guess I'll speak to you soon. Alright, bye bye. I speak to you again, just think of something else actually. I had a few things where the dots basically connected. There was a story I read about to do with Canada and warning about mass deaths and things like that. And I'm thinking, well, why would that happen? And then it became quite obvious. I read another story. It was going on about a super flu pandemic. So likely that if you release the virus at the right time, when people are at the weakest, then that'd be a good time for their mass attack. There's a thing about trying to reduce the population and their targets, and they haven't got anywhere with it. They give the more cancer they give people, the more they breed. I mean, they're not going to get anywhere because they don't understand the nature of poverty. I was having a discussion earlier with a client, and basically, if you take a woman and you take away all the skills and you reduce her and make her quite poor, she's going to use the thing she knows the most to use, and that is to build a family. So she will have a large family because she knows then that way she's enriched herself with having kids and so on. And that's why, you know, it's not just that people just I want a house, I want a baby. It might be, what have I got going on in my life? How do I enrich myself? And that's basically it. But if they had other things in their life, like you know, certain levels of education and so on, they'll plan themselves differently. The family unit, like they might wait for a partner that they want to have a long-term relationship with, to sort of, you know, when I mean long-term, it's like 50 years with them, and then think they'd start their perfect family. So they might have this, like, we've already got the house, we bought the house, it's our house. So rather than, you know, I'm too poor to buy a house, so how do I obtain it? So that's why you've got a mass population in some areas, and because it's so poor, the children keep dying, so it pushes this poverty thing of having more kids to survive in poor regions. But if you're richer, you'll have less of an issue. I mean, elites still have lots of kids. I don't see why they've got all these trillions of dollars and or even just being billionaires. I think really there should be a social responsibility, and then they retain some sort of title, but their wealth should be taken and used to progressively protect, you know, mankind. Because this isn't going to be sat there. I can't see what they'd be spending it on. Maybe they are spending all the time. But I always get the impression, like most people, that they're sort of sat on a throne and then basically just collecting money and watching everyone else burn and suffer around them. And it's kind of this elitist game that play out. It's very difficult to know what's going on, and whether people are either white, grey or black hats, I guess you could put a label on them. You know, do they want humanity to progress? I mean, I had a chat, because I mentioned in one of my other videos about the cures for diabetes, and, well, basically ways to manage it, self-management, that's what that is, opposed to corporate management. And she says, well, why don't you tell the NHS and then they can cure people of diabetes? And I'm thinking, that's not what they want. They want people to have managed conditions and take it from there, really. So yeah, so anyway, that's what was raised. Anyway, this Pig is signing off, and I'll speak to you soon.